Hello, Twitch. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Tuesday afternoon/evening. We are very, very excited to have ditched Adam and replaced him with Ben.
The only downside is it makes us hibbed.
No, we're a bat. Oh, wait, no.
No, because he's the A. He's the vowel.
H can be a kind of vowel, right? I think the Welsh appear to use it that way sometimes.
And the D, the Y and the D. Well, thanks for joining us, Ben. We appreciate you.
Yes, very much so.
Thank you very much for having me.
We are going to go through and rank the townsfolk for our Brie team script. If you've been watching this podcast since December, I think we started it, we've been ranking all of the base 3 scripts. We put them into a creme de la creme and came up with another dairy-based name. So we have the Brie team, and Ben's going to help us figure out what we should put onto that script.
The Brie team. Oh my god.
Spread it on a cracker, baby. Let's do this. We talked a lot about creme de la creme because we've played it a bunch on off meta, and then I think you're the only person outside of our storyteller cadre that's run it. We are very happy with the way that it's performing. I think one of the ways that it makes it fun is because it does change the dynamics. I think sometimes you go into a certain script, a base 3 script, and you go, oh, this is a lower priority role or this is a higher priority role. And on creme de la creme, you go, man, almost everything I'm going to get is going to be really good. Or I'm not going to know that I'm an outsider, or I'm an outsider that's kind of fun or whatever, right? So that has a very different dynamic based on that. I'm curious about the Brie team because you're going to have a similar dynamic in which it's going to be kind of hard to discern, like what's your priority role, what's your high power role. But if you're looking at these roles, Ben, what do you think would be your first overall draft pick to go against this set of demons, this set of minions?
When I look at these 3 demons that we've got here, if we assume all 3 of them are going to be in, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not necessarily the case, right? But if we assume that, then I think we probably want to start looking at something that can cause a second death. Now, I guess the question I got to ask is: Are we trying to figure out? We're trying to build a good script here, right? A script that functions, that is going to provide a well balanced experience. So yeah, I'm looking at this and immediately I'm thinking we should probably put the gambler in because the script has a Shabaloth. And I believe if the gambler isn't in, it's the only way we can get 2 deaths in a night on the script.
Yep, I think you're right. I think the other side of that would be just to have as many protection rolls at night as possible. But there's not a lot of options for that, so I think the gambler is a good pull.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm here to move tokens around. My opinions are going to be limited today because I am not used to Photoshop at all.
Without Adam here to contest, I think the gambler is going to make the script.
Yeah, take that, Adam.
Boop. He's in the chat.
He is in the chat.
So I'm sure he will start protesting loudly if he wildly disagrees. Gambler is a great choice. So we are Adam endorsed now as well.
Oh, man.
Nice one.
Well, all right. So what do you think next? I think that's a good shout because you got to have something for the Shab to make it look like maybe it's not a Shab game for a day or 2.
I can't help but notice that you've got all 4 of the top 4, the you start knowing roles from Trouble Brewing here. And I sort of understand why they'd be ranked lower than S and AT. I mean, for a start, they only do one thing for the whole game. It only happens on the first night, and they're generally considered somewhat sort of dispensable. But I think of those 4, one of them is genuinely scary if you're on the evil team, and that's the investigator.
The investigator, I think when we talked about the investigator, I think it was in comparison to other once per game abilities. So our only S tier once per game abilities were Philosopher, Clockmaker. We were very, very stringent. We had a lot of criteria. And I think the Virgin ended up making A tier and then made the cut to the creme de la creme. So that's kind of where the investigator is stacked up. But I think it can be pretty scary. I think the chef can be scary too.
I think we all loved an investigator, honestly. I do think it was just because of the set that we were ranking. So we did once per game, protectors and poisoners. I literally have the list here. Yes, each night. Yes, and once and passive. So it was in that once and passive that there were just others that we thought were better.
Yeah, fair enough. I can't really argue with that assessment, to be honest. I think I agree.
But here it is. It's going to have its time to shine. It's going to find itself an assassin.
And assassin.
I guess you could be really mean if we do put the evil twin on there, and then you show the investigator either Ben or Hayley is the evil twin, and then Hayley and Ben are the good and evil twin. But,
man.
That surely, if you were to do that, would relegate the investigator to below C tier.
It definitely would. Make for an angry set of players too.
I think it would. Yeah.
This face.
Anything else jumping out to you as like the absolute must go on the script, Ben?
Yeah, I'm quite surprised you've got Professor in B tier here, because I always get Professor and Philosopher mixed up. Professor's the one that resurrects the townsfolk, right?
It does indeed.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, let me explain it to you. It falls in line in the same way that the Pacifist on paper is an incredibly powerful ability. It gets a lot of shit, right? But you don't see Professor on any script. I mean, very rarely do you see Professors work on a script that doesn't have a Shabaloth. Because if that ability is able to go off and that's not in play, then whoever they resurrect is immediately good. You brought somebody back from the dead, all those kinds of different things. So that's kind of why the Professor, it doesn't seem to work as well in customs. And it does work, fairly well in its home script, but I think that's because of the Shab. We have a Shab here, so I think it could be pretty viable.
Yeah, I agree. I can sort of get that as well. You're probably right. Like the Professor, there are certain things in Blood on the Clocktower, certain elements of characters that I think we need more of. Obviously, the game is only just about to release. So we've got hopefully many years of adding things, but I think Resurrection is one of those things that we could do with more of. And outside of manipulation as well, I think that it would be nice to have just a few more characters that do that.
I think that's one of the things I love about the Al-Hadid. It's my favorite demon. But, because it's a known entity, right, that Resurrection doesn't look like a Professor. So it still doesn't toe that line exactly. But, I think you're right. You need a little bit more of that.
I like Resurrection as well.
Oh, yeah. I think it's in human nature to like resurrections. That's why we pumped it in so many religions. All right.
That's true. That's why we're trying to freeze brains, right? So that we can come back in the future.
I want to be digitally immortal. I'm here for that.
Well, do you know what? There's one character on this list here that I am really, really surprised to see. I'm wondering, can you two guess which one I'm looking at?
You're surprised to see ranked low.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see. I'll tell you what, we'll cut out the C tier. There's a B tier character here that I'm really surprised to see ranked this low.
Chambermaid.
No, but that's a good answer. That would probably be up there with it.
I would say Ravenkeeper, but I mean, I would say that.
That's another pretty good answer, but it was actually the seamstress for me.
Seamstress.
Adam hates the seamstress. That's why that's down there.
So there's if you go back and watch every episode, and you should, because just for the banter alone, the results now, right? But if you want to watch all the episodes, and there's a lot of like me going, or Hayley going, I think it's better than that. And he's like, well, if I had an F tier, I'd put it there. So, and we had to drag it back up. So, anyway.
He's such an angry man. Even in now, it's like mute the stream, jog on, Ben, in chat.
I kind of feel like Adam's like not great at being objective. Did you hear that, Adam? You're not very good at being objective.
I do think that the seamstress compared to the artist, compared to the philo, ranked below them, and that's kind of what pushed it down to, because it was about the context of where they were. But there was a lot of talk about, and Capelli scolded us for a while about the seamstress. Am I right about that? Yeah. A lot of flack about the seamstress. And so I think Hayley and I were like, yeah, sure, it could be A tier. It's fine. It won't affect anything. It won't make it to creme de la creme, but it's a good role. But a lot of it was predicated on like, did it snipe on, like, when do they use their ability? Are they using it on the first night? What are they learning from that? Are they using it on a later night? How is it applied? That kind of thing. In the overall criteria of, does it tell you who the demon is? I think a lot of the roles for me, that ended up being kind of the litmus test. That was the deciding factor, is like, does it bring it over the line to A? Does it bring it over the line to S? something that knows where the demon is, because that's the win condition for the good team.
Because I'm looking at it and thinking, on average, I see the seamstress have a bigger impact than the slayer, and the slayer is not on one of these low tiers. But when you say, oh, do you know what, the slayer does actually get us closer to knowing who the demon is, which kind of, I can sort of see that, yeah. But yeah, you should totally put it on the script and then make Adam run it as much as possible.
Fun story, when they got the Grims, both of Hayley and Adam's Grims are missing the seamstress for some reason. Nobody knows why. Printing error, I guess.
He's got some tokens just like sat on his desk. So I was wondering if one of them was the seamstress, like he'd just taken it out, like I don't need this in my box.
So when you're making that determination, I think because we have both the Ravenkeeper and the Sage here, which one do you think would be the better fit for this script?
I mean, this is a non-answer, but since they're both here, I think it would be fun to have both of them on it, just because the demons really got to think about who they kill in the night. I think a lot of the time, if you're being well supported by your minions, you can just sort of kill indiscriminately as the demon, and you'll probably be all right. So having two characters on here that can really shaft you if you just kill random people, I think would make for quite an interesting dynamic.
And the Sage is killed by the demon specifically, which makes the Godfather and the Assassin have a little bit more oomph in their interactions with it.
Yeah.
The Ravenkeeper's just dying.
Which, if we have both the Assassin and the Godfather, then that's, there's a very, very real possibility that Ravenkeeper's going to come off. Because I run, I would say like 90% of the games I run are Trouble Brewing, because I go to conventions and I'm running for new players. And I would say more often than any other character, I seem to notice the Ravenkeeper ends up in the final three for various reasons. Probably because, some guy who's never played before stands up on day one and says, well, I'm the Ravenkeeper. And, obviously then they're not going to get killed. But I think a script where there are more opportunities for the Ravenkeeper to die would be quite an interesting thing.
Okay.
We're gonna bring them both up. Landmines. Far, we have 2 after death knowledge rolls. We have a once per game. We have 2 once per game knowledge rolls and a once per game resurrection roll. Man. Plus the Gambler, which can get ongoing information. What else do you think we need?
So I'd quite like to see the cult leader on this.
Well, so we only have our base 3 in this version of what we're doing right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, chat is saying Soldier, Sailor, Full Sage, Ravenkeeper would be a great night defense team. Feels like a lot.
That would be. Yeah, I think that would be a little too much. Do you know, I'm surprised you've got the Town Crier on C tier. What was the logic behind that?
I have a personal aversion to people telling folks how to nominate or vote. And I see that a lot in Town Crier games.
Yeah, I can sort of see that, yeah. I think the best practice is to request and not tell, right? But some people have a tendency to want to backseat coach the entire team, right? Do you know what? No, you convinced me, actually. I'm gonna change my mind, if that's all right.
Okay, yeah, you are welcome to change your mind.
Allow you to be convinced by me. Yes.
So I'd like to see the Juggler on there. It's not the most useful of characters, and oftentimes you are kind of tempted to underuse it to get, the less things you say, the less variables there are. But what I actually like about the Juggler, and what I think is massively, massively underappreciated about the Juggler, is that the fake juggles that non-jugglers do are an excellent means to convey information to people without committing to anything. So I think it's great to have on just for that one reason.
Adam is going off in chat again.
God, Adam, if you're so offended by all of this, why have you made a ranking system and then demanded that we build a script with the ones that you don't like? Just like a masochist or something.
He's performatively grumpy at the best of times, and now you're diving right into his performance art. His least favorite roles were Juggler and Gambler.
Yeah.
We got Gambler pulled up to B, right? Because I was like, you have to admit it's objectively an effective role. No. Okay. I won't ever tell anything. Don't ask me what my role is on day one. I won't ever tell you. Cool. And then the Juggler was was that on steroids for him, and I didn't have a compelling argument to pull it up to B because I was like, yeah, I'll give you this one.
Okay. So we putting the juggler on.
Yeah,
Has anyone ever said, hey, what was that juggler information? I think we've got to solve with it. I think that is not the point of what's been said here, though, Adam, my dear.
You need to have those early game characters that set you off on the journey of information gathering that eventually helps you arrive at the victory, right? They're necessary. Like saying that the juggler's bad because it can't solve the game is like saying you shouldn't have bread in a chicken sandwich because there's no chicken in bread.
I don't disagree with you. I'm not a fan of the juggler either, but I do agree with your argument for including it here.
It's one of those things where if I draw it, it's fine. If I don't draw it, I can still play the juggler if I want to. And if I don't want to, I don't have to.
Yeah.
I can just say people's roles out loud with my mouth. It's fine.
Exactly. And then you can resurrect them with the professor and do more juggling.
Exactly.
2 juggles a game just for Adam.
A professor is going to get their choice of either having 2 seamstresses act or 2 jugglers. Either way, Adam's a happy camper. Yeah, a late Professor Res jugglers could be pretty cool.
It could be. Yeah, I think
Could
that
be
could be.
the key to the solve, I think.
Like, because then the juggler will have more information about the town. They'll be able to maybe make some actual correct juggles that might actually be game solvers.
Or alternatively, be a dead Ravenkeeper, only tell the professor that you were the Ravenkeeper that died in the night, ask them to resurrect you, pretend to juggle, and then when the demon kills you to stop you from getting your juggles, you've got 2 pieces of Ravenkeeper information.
I love it.
There you go, everyone. You can have that one for free.
Hot strats for the Bree team.
All right. So what are we up to? We've got 7. Yeah.
Okay. I think we've got to throw the Ravenkeeper on there, right? Based on what's just been said. Oh no, we've already got the Ravenkeeper. Yeah, we've got the Ravenkeeper.
We did it. Yeah.
Testing you. You passed. Yeah, I'm intrigued to know. Savant, presumably because it can be quite difficult to decipher what's true and what isn't, and a lot of the time the storyteller doesn't give that good of information. Is that why the Savant's on B tier?
Yeah, and it's kind of, yes, it was because it's storyteller dependent, that, right? Like if it's in the hands of an inexperienced storyteller who is kind of unsure of exactly what true and false to say each day, or what false and false, or whatever, like it's a lot to put in the hands of a new storyteller.
Yeah, I think you're right there. But like, maybe shall we maybe circle back to the Savant later?
Can do that.
What do you think about Chef? Because I think we've got some interesting kinds of information here. We've got the seamstress, whose info I think could combo really well with the chef. We've got the gambler, whose information, if they die gambling that someone is good and they become, objectively evil, again, combos quite nicely with the chef. So I think they could probably... And of course, the professor, who someone has to objectively be a townsfolk, and there are no alignment changing characters in this script, at least not as of yet. So I think that's probably it's got synergy. You know, if there was a barista, right, that had given a juggler their ability twice, and the juggler juggles 10 people, would you allow them to have all 10 juggles, or would you just give them the same number twice?
I think I listened to this on the podcast that Jack did. I think you'd have to give him a full number, right?
Yeah, that would be pretty amazing, right? Sorry, I know this has got literally nothing to do with building the script. It just popped into my head right now.
I don't think, so if they juggled 10, you wouldn't say you got 3 of those right. You'd have to do 2 and then 1.
Yeah, that's actually even more useful then.
Yeah, no, that's way more useful.
Wow, we'll have to make that happen at some point on stream.
Well, we haven't ranked the travelers for the B squad yet. We have our S tier travelers, so maybe barista falls in there.
But yeah, what do you think, Chef? You cool with that?
Heck yeah! Everything that's on Trouble Brewing that's here has to go on this script, in my humble opinion.
I do think we need some protection from night deaths. And a personal point of order is I would like to see the Pacifist. I think Adam mentioned this in chat. I do think the Pacifist be super powerful on this script.
It certainly would be. Is that a good thing? I think you'd have to use it quite sparingly as a storyteller. Like, if good were really getting, like, the heads kicked in, then maybe you drop that pacifist protection in there, thus proving that the pacifist is the pacifist. Because I don't think there's any other way that someone can survive an execution, right? I mean, I guess it's possible that a pit hag could create an evil pacifist to give the evil team some legitimacy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ooh.
What a cunning minx. It's up to you. If you think it's too powerful, then that's fair. But I think it deserves. It just. I feel like the pacifist is neat in how it differs from other Clocktower roles because it scales into the late game differently than other roles, right? So there's a lot of like, I want to get this out of the way now. Whereas the pacifist is like, the longer I'm alive, the more effective I'm going to be. And people don't always perceive it that way because they think of it as useless or it's hiding information that we'd otherwise get on BMR. But this ain't BMR, baby.
Yeah, I can vibe with that. I mean, I think it has the potential to be too powerful, but ultimately that's at the behest of the storyteller, right? And we can't not build the script that we want to build on the off chance that a bad or, shall we say, inexperienced storyteller runs it. So, yeah, I'm up for it if you two are.
I know that Tyler is. Tyler fought really hard to get the pacifist higher up.
Yeah, I wouldn't have ranked it B, I'll be honest, but
Oh, okay. Where would you have ranked it, Ben?
it would be C tier for me because ultimately
You're not helping.
from my perspective, the pacifist is a tool for the storyteller to use to balance the game, which is then necessary for Blood, like the format that Blood on the Clocktower takes. It is necessary to have characters that are a tool for the storyteller to use, or are a tool for the storyteller to give to the evil team to use. Right? In my personal opinion, it's not as much fun to play a role for a lot of people that is just a tool for the storyteller to use. For me, those are my favorite kinds of characters to play because I like to play a social game and not a mechanical one. But like galaxy brain type people who like you were saying earlier on, like the savant person who wants to like remember all of their information, investigate all of it thoroughly, and have a lengthy 15-minute conversation in town square about it. Guys like that probably don't enjoy playing the pacifist as much.
I just don't think the game should be just for super solvers.
No.
Oh,
right?
no, totally not.
And so I think you get information from the past. I just think it plays differently. And I think that's one of the things that's remarkable about it. I wish people would think about it more deeply and not try to play it like other roles. Like it doesn't play like the Tea Lady, so don't get mad when it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's my only thing is, an immediate gratification generation wants it to do. Put it in the microwave and make it now, Jackie. No, you wait. It's a stew.
Oh man, all of our late 30s is coming through there.
Late 30s? Don't lump me in with that. I'm 33.
Okay, fine.
Boomers.
How rude.
I thought I was Gen X until like a couple weeks ago. It turns out I'm like real like cuspy millennial.
Yeah,
You're called a geriatric millennial. I've embraced it now, for real.
You keep my bones squeak. My other counter to that is that people do like playing the barista, and the barista is completely a tool of the storyteller. Has no agency at all, and most of its effects don't even benefit the team that they're on.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam's actually made a suggestion I like, pacifisting a Ravenkeeper to force the demon to kill them. So that would be a nice sort of way to balance out a game as well.
Yeah, same with Sage as well. Although I think the demon's still not going to kill the Sage in that situation. But yeah, I can vibe with that. You're in, pacifist. Come on.
All right. So we have, I can't count, 9. All right. With a possible savant.
So I think we should probably look at the Chambermaid now because we need characters that are going to get, repeating information. We're a bit short on that regard, I think. Yeah, I think in this script, the Chambermaid may well be seen as the most powerful information gathering role.
Considering the minions we currently have the bluffs for them become pretty limited if they're being checked by a chambermaid, right? Their bluffs are basically limited to gambler and professor and seamstress, but they'd have to be like, I'm a seamstress who has not used my ability for like a long time.
I think as well, like if there's going to be an assassin on the script, it almost incentivizes them to kill quickly, especially if they're going to be bluffing something that's passive.
We're not really sure if the evil twin's going to make the script. We were trying to do our due diligence by putting it up because it was in the C tier, but we're just not sure yet.
That's an interesting one. I know a lot of people do not like the evil twin as much as the other minions. I actually really enjoy the evil twin, but then I mostly get to sit on the sidelines and watch people argue with one another about who's evil and who isn't, which is very enjoyable for me.
I like the evil twin more than most people, I think, but it's because I always go to my twin and I try to negotiate an armistice.
Yeah.
You know, how do you want to handle this? And I'll go with whatever they want to do. If they go, well, we're going to come out guns at dawn and we're going to and point at each other. All right, well, that's what we'll do.
I think it works a lot better in person as well, right? Online, it's much easier to very quickly file those two people away under potential evil twin, whereas in person there's a lot more going on. There's a lot more nuance to the discussion. There's body language and looking someone in the eyes and all that cool stuff that often takes precedence over the very black and white binary of, one of you is the evil twin and one of you isn't.
This is kind of a little bit off topic, but I wonder if there are more of the super solvers playing in online games than the social folks.
I would definitely say so.
Because I do think there's a lot more to a social game when it's played in person.
Yeah, I think it's objectively true that the online format favors their skill set more. So it wouldn't all surprise me if they gravitate towards the format where they are going to be shining the most, right? Whereas like more sort of social players like myself, I fare much, much better in person because I can, look someone in the eye and maybe push them a little bit and various things like that you just can't really do online at all.
Agreed. I think we're all social players here at Off Meta. That's
why the cameras were so important. That was one of the great things that Adam brought to the TPI streams and what we're doing there is that I think all of my best games have been on camera.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Till I got better at solving. It took me a while to get acclimated to the online format and the play style. So yeah, I think cameras or just being able to see people at all is a really great aspect of what he brought to the game.
And that's why it's a core feature of the official app coming soon from the Pandemonium Institute.
Oh, man, put out the info. Giving the goods. That was an exclusive, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't told anybody that.
No, we have seen it, but we haven't told anybody. But there you go. Heard it from the horse's mouth. I sidetracked us a little bit there, and it almost seems like it was a segue for a setup for dropping that info, but it actually wasn't.
I wonder if the librarian might be a good choice here, because what we have in the potential outsiders, a tinker and 4 players who probably aren't going to want to admit that they're an outsider. Or one of them probably can't admit that they're an outsider because they don't know it. So having I think a librarian will have much more impact on a script with these outsiders than it does on its home script.
That's a really good point. I am all for it. So, I mean, Tyler, I can drag it back down if you have a strong opinion otherwise. But
I'm just looking at our available slots, and with the Zomboul, I'm only concerned for the Zomboul at the moment because we don't have a lot that where players would go, well, maybe I was targeted at night, and that's why there were no deaths.
Yeah,
and it becomes a Zomboul game pretty fast in that sense. So that's my only objection, not to the librarian specifically, but just.
I think that might be a good excuse to throw a sailor on there, and we need a bit of drunkenness anyway, right?
Always.
I'm happy to be vetoed on anything from this point onwards.
It would be funny to get kind of matchy, right? So you have Ravenkeeper Sage, and then you go, oh, sailor soldier. Like that may be a little much, but I think sailor's a good pull. There is the Fool. The Fool suffers from the same thing that the Pacifist does, though. A lot of times in a script, we saw this in our when we were doing the test script for demons, was the Fool was actually the confirmation character because there was nothing else that would survive execution, so they would just end up getting executed on day one, and they were the fools.
Yeah, this is, and I think the problem in this script as well is that because there is no devil's advocate, if we're going to put the fool on the script, there's a very real possibility that we might get into a situation where the fool's kind of objectively good because there's no way for evil to emulate. You know, the fool's now dead and the pacifist causes no execution, so now the pacifist's objectively good, and then all of a sudden you've got, I don't know, an 11-player game or like a 10-player game, and 20% of the game are proven to be good townsfolk.
I would be more keen on Sailor Soldier than Sailor Fool. Sailor puts enough spanners in the wrench, or in the works. Spanners in the wrench. That's just the word twice. Then we could try that in Librarian, and then we have one more roll to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm up for that because Sailor, obviously, we kind of need that drunkenness, and also another terrible thing to have to stop deaths in the night. And Soldier is counterable on this script a lot, actually. There's a poisoner that can neutralize them, there's an assassin that ignores them, and there's a pit hag that can get rid of them. So those are all options, right? So
yeah, so Soldier is going up, and then Adam in chat is making an argument for the Savant because of there's not a lot of every night information.
Yeah, I agree. And also, we've now got a lot of interesting characters that can provide interesting information for the Savant, such as a dead player was not attacked last night, or something like that. That can sort of give some impression to these people, to the Savant player, of what's going on.
What would you put the Savant in place of?
So have we run out of spaces?
We've got 13, I think.
I think we could probably stand to replace the Librarian with the Savant.
I did like your argument for it, though, about the outsiders, that these are very much outsiders that are kind of hidden.
We could get rid of the investigator, especially given that we've got a librarian and a chef now. That's enough starting information for a script, right?
Man, this is tough now, actually, I feel.
Yeah, this is a hard decision.
You know what Adam's going to say, and I'll be the voice of Adam, the voice of the voiceless, the CM Punk of the stream. He's going to say, get rid of that juggler. Get rid of that juggler. You know, have Savant.
I kind of don't want to do that, just to annoy him, to be honest.
Here I was, Adam. I was trying to I think the investigator could be pretty damaging for the evil team, and that would, I think you can get investigator info to the Savant, essentially, right, in a roundabout way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's fair.
Okay. So Adam's made a good point in chat. He's saying Sage, because we've added protection at night. So we've got Ravenkeeper and Sage, and then we've got, what was the other, Soldier and Sailor.
Yeah, we could switch out the Sage, I think, actually, because the thing about the Sage, right, is in my experience at least, in 98% of games, the Sage does literally nothing because they just end up getting executed during the day or something because no one believes them. And in 2% of games, they just immediately figure out who the demon is really early, thus ending the game early.
It works okay with the Vortox. I mean, obviously in the Poisoner, but yeah, I think pulling the Sage wouldn't hurt nobody's feelings.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in agreement with that one as well. So let's do that.
Everybody's
Goodbye,
happy,
my friend.
It's gonna be so great.
All right, so it looks like we almost have a script here. I think we've got some decisions to make on Evil Twins and Moonchilds, I think, because we were saying maybe Moonchild is too strong of an outsider, too townsfolky of an outsider, and Evil Twin has some.
I can tell you exactly what I think about the 5 outsiders that we choose from and the 5 minions that we choose from. I think that we should ditch the Evil Twin not because of any inherent issue with the Evil Twin, but because the other 4 there provide all of the like utility and balance that you need. You've got a Poisoner, so the evil team can mess with information if they want to. You've got a Godfather that changes the outside account, which is necessary for a decent script and gives them a bit of extra kill potential. There's the Assassin who can at any point kill a second person in the night, thus simulating a Shabaloth in a game where there isn't a Shabaloth. And finally, there's the Pit Hag, who is a safety net for the demon. So I think those 4 minions right there are some of like the most useful to both the evil team and the storyteller, in my opinion.
I do think the evil twin has some interesting functionality with the Zombull specifically, and because Adam forced the Zombull upon us, I think the evil twin does have some interesting implications there. But I don't disagree with you. I think those other roles, those other minions, have a lot more utility.
You could argue that the evil twin is a safety net as well, which is what I said about the pit hag, but I think it's less of a safety net.
I find pit hag to be one of those things that it is going to be based off the disposition of the player. I'm much more of a player where I want my demon to be our team captain. You tell me what the strat is, right? What's our play, and I'll go along with it. You know, whereas pit hags tend to go rogue a little bit, and they can just go play their own little mini game, and sometimes that bombs things out for their team. That's just something I've seen in games, but I wouldn't disagree with that in terms of which one of those on paper has the most utility. I think the pit hag definitely has the most of those two. All right. And what's your cut for the outsiders?
I think on it that's a more difficult one, but I think we've got enough drunkenness, and so I would consider going Moonchild, Mutant, Tinker, Lunatic, because the Lunatic's always fun, right? It's just entertaining, and it always will be. The Tinker gives that bit of utility to the storyteller. We need extra death in the night. The Mutant is some madness on the script, which is always nice to see. And then obviously the Moonchild can cause extra deaths in the night, which again could be very. It gives the evil team something, and that's what the outsiders are there to do, essentially, right?
Yep. So you get that extra kill off if you're. The only thing about the Moonchild is it also confirms a good player.
Yeah, it does, but only if you don't think that player was killed by the Shabaloth or the assassin or the Godfather. So I think of any scripts, this one is better suited to the Moonchild than most other ones.